Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna be taking a look at a topic that happened fairly recently. In case you've been living under a rock, Bo Nix got injured in the divisional round against the Bills, and it looks like he's gonna be out for the rest of the season, which wouldn't be a problem if the Broncos lost their game but they ended up winning. So now they're going on to the AFC Championship, and they don't have a quarterback. Currently, it looks like their backup, Jarrett Stidham, is going to be taking over, but I thought it might be a little bit of a fun topic to look at who else might be able to take over, as well as looking at why Jarrett Stidham might succeed or fail. So our first candidate to be the Broncos QB in the AFC Championship is, of course, Jarrett Stidham. Some of his pros are that he is already on the Broncos roster. Cut and dry. They don't have to pay someone else new to come on. Uh, he's already on the roster, so he's the easiest choice in that regard. Uh, Tying on to that, he's trained to play with this team. Like, he knows how this team works. He's practiced with them. He probably knows most of the players. And, like, he knows the coaching staff, so he won't have to learn a whole new playbook in less than a week, like most of these other people would. Uh, he's far and away the favorite, so that's probably a reason why he might get signed. Uh, and he's and the Broncos just need a game manager. They don't need some like really good elite level quarterback to lead them to the Super Bowl. They have an elite defense. They just need a game manager at quarterback, which I think Jarrett Stidham might be able to do. And those were his pros, in case I didn't mention it before. And his cons are that he hasn't started since 2023. So yeah, he hasn't started in a while. Might not be able to play at a high level because of that. He has a 1-3 record as a starter. Uh, while that does on paper look bad, you can't blame him too much for that because two of those games were on the Raiders, and the Raiders are not a good team. And two of those games were on the Broncos back when they were a mid-team. So yeah, and then same amount of touchdowns as interceptions is his next con, which, in case you don't know, that's a really bad stat to have because like that means that you're throwing the same amount of interceptions as touchdowns, which means you're not really good at protecting the ball. Either you're not good at protecting the ball or you're really bad at scoring touchdowns. Either one of them is bad. In case you're wondering, he has 8 for both. And then finally, he has 0 playoff experience. Obviously, every other quarterback left has some playoff experience because they had to win playoff games to make it to here. But this guy does not. Like, 0. Uh, our next candidate, kind of the obvious one, the next most obvious one, obviously the Broncos. Star quarterback, the one who their last starring quarterback, the one who most recently led them to a Super Bowl. Maybe he can do it again. Peyton Manning. Of course, he's a former Bronco. That's a pro for him because that means that the Broncos, he might feel some connection with the Broncos, so they might be able to convince him to come back and play for them. Uh, he's a 5-time MVP, so we know he can play at a very high level. Again, two Super Bowl rings, and he's a Hall of Famer. Just again nailing down that he can play at a very high level, or at least could back when he played in the NFL. And as far as I can tell, there's nothing stopping him from signing with the Broncos, like some of these people might have. So he could just like sign with the Broncos in theory if he really wanted to. His cons are that he's almost 50 years old, which is really old in football terms. Uh, he might not want to play, he might be tired, he might think that his career was enough. Like, I had an amazing career. Why would I want to sour it with one last playoff run that might like fall short as a 50-year-old? And then he might not be able to play at a high level anymore. A look at Philip Rivers. Like, the Colts wanted him to save their season. He came in, he played alright, but it wasn't enough. And Philip Rivers is 5 years younger than Peyton Manning. And he has no connection with the modern Broncos. Like, they have, since he left, they have gotten a new head coach and a new owners, so he might not really feel any connection with these new Broncos. So our next candidate to become the Broncos' new quarterback after Bo Nix got injured is Drew Brees. That might seem like a kind of long shot. He was drafted by the Chargers, then played for the Saints most of his career. What does he have to do with the Broncos? So, of course, his first reason that I think he might sign with the Broncos is that, in case you don't know, Sean Payton was the head coach of the Saints for most of the time that Drew Brees played for them. Like, their career, like the time that Drew Brees was the Saints quarterback and the time that Sean Payton was the Saints head coach basically overlap completely. Like, with the difference of like 1, 2, maybe 3 years. His next pro is that he's younger than Manning, which might mean that he might be able to play at a higher level. He might feel unsatisfied with his career. He only ever won one Super Bowl. In case you don't remember, he played in the 2020 season, like when he was like almost 40 years old, which shows that he might not have been satisfied with his career at that point and might see this as an opportunity to swoop in and win another ring. And he is a two-time Offensive Player of the Year winner, so that shows that he can play at a really high level. Some cons or downsides is he's still 47 years old. He's younger than Manning, but not by much. He might not want to play with the Broncos. He might, like, despite Sean Payton being their head coach, he might feel like, at heart, I'm still a Saint. I don't want to play with the Broncos. He might feel like he doesn't have anything left to give, or he might not even want another ring. He might be like, I got a ring, I'm satisfied. I don't want to, like Manning, he might say, I don't want to have, like, this stain on my career. And his final con is he never won MVP. Not really his fault per se, because there were a lot of good quarterbacks when he was playing. Like, if he were playing in basically a lot of other football eras, he would have won MVP, but, like, he really didn't because there were a lot of good quarterbacks, which shows that he might not be as good as, like, Peyton Manning, who won it 5 times, or Tom Brady, who won it a bunch, and yeah. Or even Drake May, who looks like he might be able to win, who he'll have to play in the AFC Championship, and looks like he might win it this year, and if not this year, his season is still really new. His, like, career is really young, so he's probably gonna win it at some point. So that's my case for Drew Brees. I think he's less likely to come back than Peyton Manning. I think they're really close. Like, I think Peyton Manning just has in my mind, he has the slight edge over Brees because he was a Bronco himself. But I could definitely see how you might think Brees would be more likely to come back because he has this connection with the modern Broncos, and he's slightly younger, so he might feel like I have something left to give. And then my final candidate is Russell Wilson. And my pros for him is he was with the Broncos. He's still relatively young. Like he's still in the NFL right now. Uh so he's not like gonna be like as big as of a wild card as like Peyton Manning and Drew Brees, who are both retired. His next pro, I should say, is the Broncos paid him almost $100 million after he left, so he might be like kind of thankful to them for that. Like, I don't think it will affect him that much, but you never know. Uh, he and the biggest reason I see is like the Seahawks right now look like they're gonna make the Super Bowl for the NFC. They're the favorites. And in case you don't know, Russell Wilson played with the Seahawks most of his life before they traded him away to the Broncos. So if the Broncos make the Super Bowl, the Seahawks might make the Super Bowl, uh, Russell Wilson might have an opportunity to get revenge on his former team, which might be something that he wants. And finally, he made it to 2 Super Bowls, and he won one, so that shows that he was, back in his time, a really good player. He is kind of washed now, but he was good, so he might have some of that magic left. And his first con is that the Broncos released him for a reason. Like, he was washed. Like, it was almost painful to watch him play with the Broncos. The Broncos wanted him to be their savior. He was not. Uh, he probably has a sour relationship with the Broncos. Like, they like signed him and then they released him after like a season and a half, less than that. So they might not have the best of relationships. Uh, he's still pretty old, like he's almost 40, so he might not be able to play at a very high level like these young up and coming quarterbacks that are in the playoffs right now. And the final biggest reason why I don't think he signs with them is he's already signed with the Giants, and which I think means that he can't sign with another team right now during the playoffs. So, of these candidates, I think Jared Stidham would be my pick to be the Broncos quarterback. But if you exclude Jared Stidham, I think Peyton Manning would be the like best op would be the, like the biggest contender, I guess you would say. He has the best chance of signing with the Broncos. I could see him doing it if he wants to. And if the Broncos think that he still has some magic left that can lead them to a Super Bowl. So those are my 4 potential candidates to start as the Broncos quarterback and lead them to a Super Bowl. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.